Welcome to K-Talk Radio. As usual, it's Wednesday morning. You're listening to Prepper Talk Radio.
You got it right.
And we're excited to be here. I'm Scott, Mr. PrepperCon, and as always here with Shane, the prepared guy. How's it going today?
You know, I'm doing well. Tweaked my back a little bit on Monday, but that was my own fault.
Well, that's better than tweaking your truck.
Yeah,
I tweaked my truck last week, and I haven't had it for a week and a half.
Good thing John's not here, because you know how
we're
he
not going to go there.
150s.
We're not going to go to John.
But he will be here next week, either on the phone or here in studio. I don't know.
Yeah, we're going to have a fun guest next week. We're going to have John with Survival Medical. He's been one of our long-standing sponsors here for Prepper Talk Radio. The coolest thing about their gear, their kits, their Survival Medical, each of the medical kits is actually designed purposefully. You know, it's not just a box of Band-Aids and a box of swabs and a little ointment. Everything's been put together purposefully. Really excited. I love their products. I love their gear. I carry that in my car because I know if I'm not using it, it's safe until I need it. And even then, I can reseal it and keep it going because the little packet they put in those things creates its own ecosystem.
Just like in a food storage Mylar bag, they put in a oxygen absorber, correct? Right.
But in this, they don't do that because that would actually shorten the lifespan of some of these products. They've created their own system.
Oh, okay.
So it's really unique, really cool. So check them out, survival-medical.com. And you can also go check them out starting in a couple of weeks at Sam's Club in Logan first. So go meet them up in Logan. If you're up in Logan, you're listening, hey, thanks for listening. But go check out Sam's Club and see Survival Medical next, I think it's in 2 weeks. We'll get some more information next week when John's on the air with us. So we're excited. Today we're actually going to be having a little fun talking about habits. And not the habits with nuns.
No.
We're talking about prepper habits. What you should or shouldn't be doing is habits.
What are good prepper habits for a prepper? What habits have I developed? And that's kind of where I tend to speak is on my own personal habits and experience.
Time-tested things you've done.
Exactly. What I've eliminated, what I say, okay, that's not really important. And so what our goal is here is to really try and help you take action.
Absolutely. So the whole purpose behind our show, as you've heard over the weeks and weeks and weeks, almost to a year, is to help you with more resources. Give you more resources so you can make better informed decisions, so you can do practical things that are going to help you be better prepared for when crap happens in your life. Whether it's the SHTF, the end of the world as we know it situation, or it's I lost my job. Or as our producer says, so drills for driving or diving under desks for nuclear wars. LOL. Exactly. Because that won't help. But
that's going to help, yeah, exactly.
We'll talk about some drills as well. But what we want to do today is we want to talk about some of the habits that we've created for ourselves that we're doing that are helping us to be better prepared on a day-to-day basis.
Exactly.
And we want to hear your habits as well, things that you do, daily checks, daily things.
And you may not realize that this is a prepper habit. It's just your way of life.
Common sense habits.
Exactly.
For a better life.
Exactly. Most of them, for me, are common sense. And nowadays, has become fairly rare, common sense, especially when it comes to these kind of prepper habits.
Yeah, I would agree. It becomes uncommon sense. So if you want to join in the conversation, we'd love to have you here. 801-254-5855. We're going to talk prepper habits for the rest of the show. So tune in, stay in, and join us on social media. We're on K-Talk Utah, KTKK Radio, and then also you can find us on Twitter at KTKK. Join us, hashtag us, talk about us, talk to us. We'd like to interact with you there.
Yeah, we like to talk, but we'd rather talk to you guys and answer your questions and interact with you guys. So appreciate your calls.
So I think one of the habits that I've developed that's probably the simplest habit is my pocket check.
Okay, pocket check.
Pocket check. Every time I leave the house, I check all my pockets.
Okay.
I used to not do this. It used to be just keys and then a pocket knife, and then it graduated from keys and a pocket knife to keys, pocket knife, pliers. Make sure I've got my wallet. I used to not carry my wallet. That's how ridiculous I used to be. And then I was on vacation visiting family in Georgia, and they were living in a military base there. And we went to leave the base, and he's like, "You got your wallet?" And I'm all, "No, we're going to the beach." He's like, "You need your wallet." I'm like, why do I need my wallet?
Got to come and go on base.
He's like,
right?
to get back on base, you need your identification. Regardless of that, you should have your identification on you at all times, so that if you get in trouble, now you
Papers,
have a way to
please.
get out, because they're going to
Papers.
ask you for those papers. And I'm all, I'm like, fine. So we turned around after I got yelled at by at that time let's see, he was a captain. So I got yelled at by a captain. I wasn't even in the military, and I'm getting yelled at by a captain. Now I get
that's
yelled
what
at
they
by a
do,
lieutenant
right?
colonel if I'm doing something stupid. So it's nice to have that kind of friendship within family that can remind you to do things that are smart. So now I check my pockets every time I go somewhere. Before I leave the house, I double check to see if I have my everyday carry items. But then I also make sure at least once a week I go through the truck and make sure I've got the things that I need in the truck at all times. Jumper cables being one of those. But I kind of go through and I have a couple different checks that I do throughout the week that have just become habit.
And so much of a habit, you don't even recognize that it's a habit. So when you said that, I basically, my light went on and said, yeah, you're absolutely right. This has become such a habit for me. I didn't catch that note. What did he say?
Our producer's in the back room. He's posting
Trying to
notes
distract us.
on our screen. He's like, we should all have our Hillary Clinton identification badges so that we can, I don't know, I think he said survive the apocalypse or get out of trouble. Yeah, because Hillary's the queen of getting
That's
out of
true.
trouble.
No, that's true. Anyway, so we were talking about, your pocket checks. For me, I do this constantly. It's not just every day, constantly. Okay, I have my wallet, I have my keys. Okay, did my knife slip out of my pocket? Did I still have my flashlight in my pocket? And like you say, go to your vehicle. Oh yeah, my jumper cables are still there. And I may do this weekly or bi-weekly or whatever, just to make sure that if I've taken something out, that it's not still sitting in the garage, or because I'll take my jump kit into my office, and I'll go through it, and I'll make a few changes, and then put it back in the rig.
Yep.
And that has become an absolute habit for me. It's become automatic.
Yep. Anytime you go for a drive, things change depending on the climate and the situation you're going to. Just like every April and every October, in Utah, it's really easy I do this based on the general conference that they do. So every time I start seeing the advertising for general conference, I go through my medical kit, my survival kit, my bug out bag,
Your 96-hour
my
kit, as you call it.
96-hour kit, which is what I've always used. I go through that kit and make sure it's up to date. I'll swap out the clothing for the next season, and I'll make sure my food and water is still good. I'll rotate the water, but then I'll also look at all the different tools that I have. For example, I have snare kits. Work really good in summer, don't work so well in winter. So you have to change things up. I've actually got winter kits too.
Cool.
So you want to make sure you have things that are going to work with that weather you're going to expect.
Yeah, absolutely. As October comes on, I start putting my cold weather gear into my rig.
Absolutely.
For me and whoever else is going to travel with me, so that if you happen to get stranded or whatever happens, you're not going to be suffering or in pain because of the cold.
Yeah, everything you want to do, you want to create a simple system for yourself. And we're actually going to talk about that more in detail when we talk about the survival mindset in a few weeks. Making sure you're checklisting the things that you're wanting to do, but then also that you're not reliant on that kit, but that you have the skills to get you through and to adapt and to overcome. And so that's going to be fun. We'll get our buddy Jeff Kirkham in here from Ready Man.
Yeah, he's awesome.
So
Love having him in here.
everything you need to be doing as a prepper or preparedness-minded person, you need to start thinking about redundancies. You need to kind of create daily, weekly, monthly, or biannually habits to help you be more effective with your time and to save. It actually saves you time.
Absolutely.
So, and speaking of, our producer threw in, do you have a backup car key and a magnet to get back in your car? Great question. A lot of cars now have those electronic little devices in it.
Or whatever. You've got
Well,
your
there's the
key fob,
keypads
you
on
walk
there,
up
but
to
the electronic device inside the key that if you don't have that, you can't get back in. So make sure you've got a backup system. Lost my keys the other day. Couldn't figure out where I put them.
Along with your vehicle problems.
Oh, different vehicle.
Oh, okay.
And found them in my suit coat. I wore a suit on Friday, forgetting that I never wear suits. I put the keys in the suit coat
And
pocket.
you're
instead
not
of
in
my
the habit
pants
of doing a
pocket.
pocket check on your suit coat because...
Why do I put anything in my suit coat? Well,
Exactly.
apparently I
Once
put the keys in there and I couldn't find them for 2 days.
I've done that
Yeah,
before.
I'm an idiot. So call in. Tell us what your habits are. We're going to keep talking about some more habits here. What's the next one on your list,
My number
Shane?
one habit I have that jumped out to me at first, and I can classify this through a lot of different ranges, is, first of all, organization, being organized. I wouldn't say I'm OCD, but I'm probably a little OCD on being organized. And now that comes, I mean,
Probably.
Okay. You know
Probably.
me. Yeah. So anyway, with organization, that starts all the way from your food storage all the way to your plans, your plan A, plan B. That's where I think organization comes in. That's a pretty broad topic for me for organization. So, so for example, with say food storage, do you rotate your food every day? I mean, every week? Are you constantly replenishing that every time you go to the store? Are you organized enough to know, okay, I'm short this, I'm short that, we need to replenish that? On the food storage side, on your everyday, on the shelf type things?
I'd imagine that would be harder with kids to keep track of your food and replenish it. You pretty much have to schedule time to walk through your food storage and make sure you're up to date on everything you need.
Basic inventory, once a week when I go to the store, whenever we go to the store. Of course, kids want the junk food, but that's the least important on the list. But to replenish those longer term items like your canned goods and so forth, I actually had been having a mouse problem at our house, and anything that's not in the can, anything that's
I've got
not
snares if you need them.
Ooh, I need new ways to catch mice. So if you have any tips. I've been having some success lately, but they're smart. They're avoiding my traps. They've stopped eating the poison pellets.
Have you done the 5-gallon bucket?
I have tried that. I didn't have any luck. I need to try that again. That is a pretty cool one, but I have tried that.
That's a fun one.
Anyway, so with organization, I keep things in particular areas so I know exactly where they're at. And of course, I have the bug out bags, the bug home bags, whatever. So that takes a certain mindset in order to really know where all your stuff is, because preppers, we have a lot of stuff. But we also try and keep it simple. So it's all constant struggle to be organized.
Absolutely.
You got a caller there on line 3?
Oh, we're picking them up.
All right. Okay.
So what we need to do, though, is we need to always make sure we're aware of the things that we have. And I think, having a list or having your supplies organized is key. At my house, we kind of we have a checklist of everything digitally and on paper, and my wife goes through and checks it. That's kind of her thing, because she, like you, is a little OCD in hyper organization skills. I am not. We actually have a caller. Let's bring him on before we go to break, talking about mice. Hey, Paul, you're on the air. What do you have for us on mice?
Well, I got a way not to catch them.
Okay. That may help me.
Let's hear it.
When I was younger, I lived in this farmhouse right in the middle of a field, and we were just inundated with mice.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there was mice everywhere. And I would set a trap, and it would go off like before I got the next one set. So I thought, well, there's got to be a better way. So I made a wire grid and plugged it into my 110 outlet. And the first mouse that went through there, it fried them.
And
but
kept
it also
frying
caught
it,
on
right?
Fire. And I almost burned that farmhouse down. Don't do that.
I'll have to see how I can incorporate electricity into one of my traps.
Well, yeah, don't make sure.
Make sure everything's grounded. Don't light your house on fire.
And don't truck your
Don't
kids
light
either.
your house on fire.
Thanks for the comment.
Hey, thank you. We're heading to break.
Right.
Join back with us in about 2 minutes. Listen to our sponsors, but we'll be right back. You're listening to Prepper Talk Radio on K-Talk AM 630.
So the last comment our producer left on the message board before he walked out is do you have a backup plan for graboids, for the under the ground monsters that
I wish
transform
you could hear
into
me shaking my head.
One of my favorite prepper movies are the Tremors series of movies. And actually, when I was sitting down last night, Scott, writing notes out to doing my show prep for today, I want to do a whole show about things that we've learned from prepper movies, from movies about preppers, and just get into those types. I think it'll be a blast. It'll be a lot of fun, especially from the Tremors series of movies. Burt Gummer is the ultimate prepper, and he has a lot of good things to say.
We're going to get callers on Walking Dead. We're going to get callers
Exactly,
on just about anything and everything. That's hilarious. There was one, but I think Disney did it. It was a long time ago, and it was somebody versus the IRS.
Trying to see if I remember that one.
And he had landmines in his front yard.
Okay.
Like this kooky dude, hilarious.
So it's an old Disney movie.
I think it's an old Disney movie. I'm going to have to find that.
Yeah,
We'll reference that next time. If you know what I'm talking about, please call in and tell me, because that would totally solve that problem. But we're talking about, lists. Let's go back to, lists, habits. One of the biggest things that I'm a proponent of is keeping your things organized. I'm not as hyper OCD about it as you are. But then again, I have a wife that's super hyper organized. That's her favorite thing in the world, is to be organized. She'll checklist and list, and like right now we're renovating the house. There's 9 sheets of paper on the fridge with all the to-dos that I'm supposed to do.
Mine's pretty long too.
And that freaks me out, so I keep stacking it back so I only see one at a time. It's a little overwhelming.
But there's a lot to be said about that. Is if you think about an emergency and a disaster, there's a lot of chaos going on. I mean, and if you don't have a plan, if you haven't already made plans, if you're not already organized, it's going to be so much worse. If during that emergency you're trying to locate, okay, where is this or where is that supply? Yep. I know where I could find it in the dark. With the house partially collapsed from an earthquake, I could probably still get to my supplies.
Depending on the partial collapse.
Exactly.
Yeah. But the thing is we need to make sure we're creating a habit of practicing these things. A habit where you practice, what do we do in case of an earthquake? And throw the scenario out. Change the scenario up every time. But make sure everyone in the household knows where things are, because if something happens to, for example, Shane, if something happens to you, who takes over as leader? And does everyone else in the house know where everything is? If that chain of command falls apart, does one of your kids know the lists, know where everything is, enough to be able to say, I've got this?
They just moved out.
Okay, so you've got to create that new habit in one of your kids.
Yep.
Me, I've got the same problem. Thankfully it's only my wife and I, but there's a lot of other people that kind of rely on us, and so they don't know where everything is. Yeah. And I don't want them to know.
That's true, and that's another thing on my list is what we'll get to hopefully if we have time is, okay, who can you trust? Who do you talk to? Who do you not talk to? And trust with those types of things. Okay, yes, here's where this stash is. Here's where this is. Here's where these documents are. In an emergency, you're my backup.
Yep. And there's a trust level you got to have with certain people to be able to tell them what you have and where you have it. Yeah. Otherwise, and we're going to jump into this a little bit later, is operational security, or OPSEC as everyone calls it. That's more military minded. But those are important things. You don't want everyone to know. You don't want to wave a flag out and say, hey, we've got a food storage supply to last 10 months. Come and get it. Same thing with anything else you have.
Exactly. But we still, like you and I, we still need to open our mouths and say something to get people to kind of wake up and be aware. So those are a couple other items that are on my list, as well as prepper habits. They're a little bit further down the line here, but essentially you need to keep quiet. That's one of the habits of a prepper, is keeping quiet, but also teaching. Being able to open your mouth and just talk to your neighbor who you have no idea, what their beliefs are, what their tendencies are, what kind of a person they are. But you still have that urge, that desire to help them to become prepared, because they're your neighbor, and if something happens, first of all, they're going to sap your supplies, maybe even be a danger. But
yeah, and the rule is first rule of prepping is you don't talk about prepping, right? Second rule of prepping, you don't talk about prepping. And that is to people you don't trust, you don't know yet.
Yeah, there's a caveat there.
There's a caveat. And so I think we need to create a habit of developing levels of trust with our friends and family. The people that we trust, we continue to focus on building that trust, especially if they're like-minded. Those who are less than like-minded, you're going to always approach them from a level of educating them, of reserving your knowledge and reserving your information, especially your supply of things that you have, so that you don't become a target. Now, I'm opposite of that, which flies in the face of everything I've been taught, everything I've learned, everything. But I have a different kind of responsibility as I view it. I'm the creator of PrepperCon. PrepperCon is the largest preparedness expo in the nation. The reason I created that was because I felt like there was a huge need to share what I know, and more importantly, to bring together all the experts that I know to teach people in a fun environment how to be better prepared, to take away the taboo of fear and of hostility that is driven inside this industry. Every email I see, marketing email from a lot of these companies, it's hurry and get this before the collapse, or oh, the NSA is spying on you. Get your guns and ammo ready now. And I'm like, seriously? You know, they're pushing this fear, and so I push the peace and the promotion
And the
behind
hope
it,
and the preparedness.
responsibility. And so I've kind of opened up my doors so everyone knows what I have. But I do it in a way so that I can educate. But then I've also taken a lot of the stuff and I've stored it off-site now. So I've got caches of things.
Yeah, and that's another great prepper habit, which is not on my immediate list, but don't keep all your eggs in one basket. But, you know, as you were saying, Scott, is as we talk to people, as I talk to a lot of people, I really realize that, I mean, you have this desire, this intense need to be able to have the opportunity to talk to other people and tell people about what's going on, enlighten them, and wake them up as to what you could say is our awful situation. And, you know, the more people I talk to, the more people feel the same. I mean, they're wanting to do the same thing. They want to help wake up others as well. And I continually running across people that way that are starting their own efforts to, you know, do a podcast or do a show or do something to help educate other people because they feel this intense need to help others.
You know, we got a caller. Let's bring him on the line. Hey, thanks for calling K-Talk. What's your name?
Timothy.
Hey, Timothy, you're live with Prepper Talk Radio. What have you got for us?
I wanted to talk about the mice.
Okay.
So I grew up in a house that I killed a lot of mice when I was a little kid and a teenager. And one day when I was older, I realized I'm killing more than could live in the house. I got to find where they're getting in the house. And I walked around the house, and I found a little hole where they were getting in the house. And once I fixed that hole, the mice problem went away. And I also experienced this years later with a friend. He once approached me saying, I don't know what it is. The last couple of years, I'm getting a bunch of mice in my house. And I said, well, the first thing we need to do is we need to walk around your house and figure out where they're coming in. And it turned out about 2 years ago, he put an air conditioning in his house, and the pipe that they drilled through the wall for the air conditioning lines, the mice were crawling through that hole.
I found that's been the number one on other properties I've managed, how mice get in. But, absolutely. And I've done that on my house, and I appreciate pointing that out because basically, they got to find a way in, and then they've got to find a way out to get water. But they're in your house for food, and so we've gone through our house, and they did get into. We had a bag of a big 50-pound bag of wheat that was not in a bucket; it was just on the shelf in the storage room. They had gotten into that. We cleared that out. We cleared everything else out that they could possibly be eating, and so we're making some progress on it. But how they get in and out of my house, I haven't the slightest idea. That's my biggest concern right now.
I bet if you put a little time into it and walked your house a few times, you may find the source where they're getting in.
I do need to look a little harder.
That's a good idea. Thanks for bringing that up. A lot of times we don't know. Well, most of the time we don't know what we don't know. Yep. We don't know the cause of the problem that we're going against until we start researching it. You know, in the medical industry, that's what doctors are supposed to do. They're supposed to look at the symptoms and find out what the cause is and then combat the cause. You know, we can do that in our own lives with the problems that we face. And I think that's one of the most overlooked things in our current society is people think, well, who can I call to fix this?
Yeah.
Instead of what you did is took responsibility and said, okay, I need to fix this.
Yeah.
And we need to get people out of the mindset of on-demand living where, and if I need something done, I can call somebody else. Or, if I'm hungry, I'll just pull into the drive-thru. Or, if I want a movie, I can just download a movie. People have gotten so lazy and forgotten the basic skills and the basic ability to just take care of their things, take care of themselves, their family.
Yeah.
So I love that you brought that up. It's a really good point.
Yeah, and that of course, appreciate your call. And you know, that takes me into another aspect is, you know, as I was preparing my list of habits here, of course, the first thing that jumps into my mind is, of course, Stephen Covey's 7 Habits of Highly Successful People. And so I threw the word prepper in there, you know, and came up with my own list. And come to find out, I do a little internet search, and there's plenty of other preppers that have made this a similar list.
Done
so
the
I'm
same
not the first one,
So you're a
even though I
copycat.
thought it was an original idea. But one thing that really jumped out to me that your point you brought up with your comment there is one of Stephen Covey's items on his list is you seek to understand, then you seek to be understood. So that is every single one of these items on Stephen Covey's list really applies to preppers. Now I guess we've got a call. Let's see who this is.
Hey, thanks for calling Prepper Talk Radio on K-Talk. You're on the air. What's your name?
Bill.
Hey, welcome to the air. What have you got for us?
Thank you. Yeah, I'd like to tell you how to take care of mice.
All right. I
We've got
could
a
use all the
mice-
advice.
This is a mice show.
This is a hot topic.
Get some flour,
Flour.
mix it with plaster Paris, maybe, I don't know, 20-30%
Okay.
plaster Paris.
Just leave it dry.
Mix it up. And leave it dry. Just set it out in a pan for the mice to eat.
Oh, wow.
The mice eat the plaster Paris, goes in their stomach, sets up, they're dead.
That's a great idea.
Another-
I'm going to give that a try.
Another good way is if you're preppers, you ought to build some figure 4 deadfall traps.
Okay, yeah.
Take a piece of 1x10, a short piece of 1x10, put a brick on it, and
Yep.
make a little trigger.
That's true. They have
And
gotten
you-
used to my regular mouse traps, and they don't go to those anymore, even though they have peanut butter on them. So if I change up the different trap idea, then maybe that'll work better.
I like that idea with
I
the
use-
deadfalls because now you're practicing a skill you should already be
that's-
practicing.
That's true.
Exactly. I used that trap down in Venezuela. I could catch 2 at a time
Yeah, I've done that.
within minutes. I mean, it works very well if you know how to work it.
I'm going to do that this weekend. That's my to-do list. This weekend is to build a deadfall
Yeah,
trap.
you might tell people how to make the figure 4 deadfall
Mhm.
trigger, but it's very effective. It works on any size animal.
Shane, let's have you do a video of that this weekend.
Okay,
Set it up, practice it.
that's a good idea.
We're going to follow up with this next week. Thanks so much for your call.
Yeah, thank you.
You bet. Bye.
We got a call on line 5 here.
Hey, thanks for calling into K-Talk. You're on the air.
Oh, wow, that was fast. I have a solution to the mice problem. Let me tell you a story I had.
All right.
Where I live, there's just a lot of mice where I lived, and I had a problem where they were taking over my garden and my house.
Mm-hmm.
So what I did, I used the neighbor's cats,
Mm-hmm.
and there were a lot of cats running around in the neighborhood, and I would use them to control mice, and they pretty much controlled mice in the garden. However, they ran in my house as an escape route.
Mm-hmm.
So I got a cat myself, and that solved the problem.
Cats are a great option. I have 2 dogs, which is too many, and that is just
Too
not an
many, in
option
my
right for
opinion.
us right now is
Indoor.
a cat. But no, cats are, I think, the ultimate killers. They are the ultimate hunting machine.
Oh, I've looked at cats. I actually like to watch them hunt.
Yeah.
I mean, I admire their hunting skills. There's a natural beauty to them to watch them hunt. And if you look at their skills, granted, we have skills they don't have, but they have skills we don't have.
Mm-hmm.
But when you watch their skills at hunting, you have no doubt there's a God.
Absolutely, the way they've been created and have their purpose.
Well, I think additionally is you can see that there is a creator who designed everything with a purpose.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's a really good point. You know, I watch cats and they instinctively know how to hunt.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you can take
They
a
don't have to
cat,
be
a
taught.
kitten
Taught, yeah.
away from the litter when it's very young, before mom's taught it anything.
It will stalk
They'll
its
figure it out.
prey. It'll stalk a grasshopper. or
They're
whatever.
programmed. Yeah, it's amazing. That's a good point. Thanks so much for your call.
You are welcome.
All right, awesome.
So it's turned into to the Mouse Movement 2016. Let's get all the mice out of Shane's house.
But let's talk about that, because when it comes to sanitation, I mean, the mice can wreak havoc to your sanitation in your home, if there's a disaster, if you're living off your food storage, they can wreck your food storage, they can wreck your sanitation in your house. So you got to know these things so you can deal with it when we can't go to Home Depot and buy the poison, or go to Home Depot and buy the traps and such.
Well, after the collapse, if you're going to talk that way, and you can't go to Home Depot to buy the stuff, Home Depot is going to be empty and vacant. So if you need new lighting for the grid that's gone down, you can go get it for free. If you need poison, it's probably going to be in the back for free, because
Maybe.
there's a chance. That's actually on my list.
Yeah.
If the grid goes down, if the world goes into chaos, and I'm going to give this one out there to everybody for free, Home Depot has a really good hearty supply of edibles.
Okay.
Number 1, beverages. Number 2, individually packaged snacks.
Right then, your
They're at
Snickers bars
every-
and such.
Yeah, every checkout stand has those, and batteries.
Mhm.
You know, everyone's going to think, oh, go to the grocery store. Oh,
Yeah,
dude,
that's
I'm
true. You
hitting
run to-
Home
run to
Depot
Home
and
Depot.
Lowe's because there's less competition.
And you have probably
Until
have it at
now.
your food store.
All
everybody
38,000 of
knows.
the listeners who are listening to this are now going to be competing with me
Going to the Home Depots.
to the Home Depots.
and stocking up on plywood.
But now that we know, let's shake hands, let's be friends, and we'll split everything up evenly.
All right, yes.
We got another caller on line 3. Hey, thanks for calling K-Talk. You're on the air.
Yeah, I just wanted to make a comment about skills.
Please do.
The YouTube community is pretty helpful in regards to kind of like the Matrix. You need something, you go in there, download for 10 minutes. Next thing you know, you're a pro, right?
Yep, you're right.
My wife, she writes down all these recipes and stuff. So I figured, if the power's gone, and I'm not going to have any recipes for success. So I've been actually kind of paraphrasing and writing recipes for repairs for all these different things because if the internet's down or you don't have access to the information, it's in a crisis situation you can't remember beans.
Those are some fantastic ideas. If you want to hold over for after the break, we got to run to our break here, but we'll address that on the other side. And you're listening to Prepper Talk Radio. Thanks for listening.
Welcome back to Prepper Talk Radio on AM 630. That's K-Talk, the only unbiased, well, I guess we're a little biased, but the non-media driven, the non-bought-out news source in the United States, and specifically here in Utah.
Yeah, and what I really love about K-Talk, and I don't want to brag on our show, but you listen to all these other shows here on K-Talk and other stations as well. It's a lot about politics. It's a lot about geopolitics, and it's hard to know what the truth is. It's hard to know exactly. You have your opinions, and I guess that's what one of my comments was a couple of shows ago. Is that we're not an opinion show. We're more of a truth show, or more of a facts show. We'd like to talk about real things that can make a difference in our lives. Obviously, politics can make a difference. I don't mean to deride that, but it's hard to know what the truth is, and so that's why I love talking about what we talk about, because these are truths. These are facts.
Yeah. It's an informative show on how to be better prepared. And we've got a caller on the line, and let's continue that discussion we were on.
The skills.
So the skills you were talking about. Are you still there? Did we lose you?
Am I here?
Yeah,
Yep,
okay.
There you go.
Oh, here. I was talking, but I couldn't hear myself.
Sorry.
There's a bit of a delay.
That's a lot.
Bit of a delay. So
I need listening skills, fighting skills, and chapstick because my lips are real bad.
But anyway, in regards to writing that stuff down, I believe, I know for a fact that your success in life is a direct result of your knowledge, skills, and abilities. And if you're sitting down watching TV, you're not investing in your family, you're not investing in yourself, you're investing in the media, and their products are brainwashing you. But there's a lot of time in life, and if you turn off the television, you're going to create a whole other lifetime that you're going to be able to learn and put these skills to use. But I really feel like having that knowledge is key to the future, because it's kind of being lost. Fahrenheit 451 isn't about burning books anymore. It's about deleting what's in the internet. They don't have to go around and collect all the books. People are just throwing them out in the trash because they just read it on the internet. So, information's changing here at a rapid pace. It's being lost, it's being manipulated and changed. And, to invest in ourselves and to keep that information close to us, I think is going to be key to the future. Because like you said, this is the age of misinformation. And you can spend more time filtering through all the stuff than you can finding out the truth. And then and even if you did identify the truth, or if you knew the truth, did you identify it?
Yeah.
It's at that point, what is the truth? But I appreciate what you guys do, love what you do. And if you can have a segment on what to do about Sasquatch. I got a huge Sasquatch problem. I appreciate that.
That's actually a really awesome idea. We've got a resident Sasquatch
expert.
I wouldn't call him an expert, but he's a squatcher. He goes hunting. So we'll go talk to him. We'll see if we can get him on the show, because I think that would be a fun topic.
Yeah, and you had some fantastic points there, which is on my list of daily habits, is building up that library in not just digital media, but in actual physical. Like you're saying, you're writing recipe cards from how to do videos on YouTube. That's a fantastic idea. I've been building up a library of practical knowledge that that when the internet's down, you can't access it otherwise. So that
You know the end in mind, right?
Exactly. So yeah, thank you very much for your comment. Appreciate it. Thank you very much for your call.
It's funny because I do something similar. Every time I find a resource that is online that I love. I'm like, oh, cool.
Print it out.
You know, I'll pin it on Pinterest, and then I'll print it out and put it in my binder. My binder's my favorite place. I keep the binder in my 96-hour kit.
Oh, that's cool.
So it's slowly growing. The things that I'm like, okay, I need to learn or I want to learn that I'm not as good at, or good reference sheets.
A simple graphic where you can see the pictures and the illustrations.
Yeah, so I've got tons of plants that are listed that I can eat. They're edible, that have different medicinal purposes, and then how to make tinctures with them. But there's so much more I want to learn and do. But yeah, that's a great habit. Let's take this other caller. Hey, thanks for calling K-Talk. You're on the air.
Yeah, hey, you guys were talking about practicing and, staying into a good habit with, your survival stuff. One thing my daughter and I like to do is I taught her how to make an old school Boy Scout cooking stove with a tuna can and a coffee can, and practicing how to cook. We do that every once in a while, whether it's over a fire or one of those, because let's face it, there will come a point where if things really crash, what if you don't have propane?
Yeah,
what if you don't have
in Scouts, we called those buddy burners. That's what we called them when we built them.
It's amazing. I'm glad you brought that up. It's amazing how long those will actually burn for.
Oh, it's crazy.
They make a lot of smoke, but
tons of smoke, but they burn for a long time. All we ever did was cook hamburgers on them, but we cooked a lot of hamburgers, a lot.
Easy to cook.
So that's a really good point. Thank you so much.
Yeah, no problem. Oh, and you know what? The mice problem, real quick.
Yeah.
Just what we ought to do is we ought to have them all go apply for the DNC and feed us information on Hillary's campaign. That should eliminate the mice pretty quick.
It always goes back to that topic there, doesn't it?
You know what? It does. It really does. So, all right. Have a great day, guys.
Hey, thanks for the call. Appreciate it. Oh, we just missed a couple of callers there. Feel free to call back in. Our lines are open right now. But going back to, I guess, I've got a huge list here. Well, we never have enough time for our list. But organization we talked about. We talked about practicing skills and developing that knowledge as a habit, as a daily habit. It becomes ingrained, kind of like Scott's pocket check. It just becomes, okay, do I have my keys? Do I have my wallet? Because it becomes an instinct, and it's no longer a habit. It's beyond a habit and has become an instinct and ingrained into your daily habits. And so that's really where, obviously, it takes years and years and years to build up those types of skills and habits. So start now and be aware. And that's another thing that's on my list, is being aware, being observant. That's what I'm calling it, being observant.
Another phrase for it is situational awareness.
Situational awareness.
So you're going to hear that phrase a lot, but I think observant is key, because when people think of situational awareness, they're hyper-focused into self-defense and protection, whereas observant is being aware of everything going on. I mean, there are so many tools and resources around us at any given time that we walk past or trample on because we're not paying attention, we're not observant. When you're hunting, you've got to be highly observant so you can find your game trails, right? When you're fishing.
Which way the wind's blowing, which way your scent might be carrying, a lot of...
Well, you don't have to worry about your scent so much when fishing, but you need to understand currents. You need to understand eddies, how those work and how fish act within those. First aid, medical. If you're out in the wild and you're out of bandages, what can you do? I mean, you can take portions of the clothing you're wearing and use them as bandages if they're clean, but if they're not clean, you got to clean them. You got to look at those types of things and be observant of what's going on around you, but there's also certain plants that can be used as well.
Yeah, your resources, and being observant is, maybe a little bit of a broad topic, but being alert, being cognizant of your surroundings at all times, especially, obviously when you have your kids with you and you're out in public, you want them to be safe, or if you're at the pool. I constantly have a laser eye on my kids at the pool or anywhere where there's some level of danger, and in public there's a particular level of danger, and so I have essentially trained myself to never look away from my kids.
Yeah,
and in that particular instance, so that's kind of what I mean about being observant, and not necessarily like Scott's saying, it's not a tactical thing at all the time. It's just being aware and not being on your phone playing Pokemon Go, right?
Yep.
That totally wipes out that ability to be observant or
being aware of the things that are real versus the things that are not
real.
There we go. It's funny that you bring up the pool. A friend of ours is a lifeguard at a local pool, and a mother flipped out on her the other day when I thought this was one of the funniest things I'd ever heard of. A little 3-year-old kid, was playing in the pool. was okay. They weren't drowning. They weren't doing anything, to get in trouble. But the mom came over and flipped out because the lifeguard wasn't watching their kid, wasn't taking care of their kid for her.
It's ridiculous.
Lifeguards are not nannies. They're lifeguards. They're there to take care of the people when they're drowning, when there's an incident. Your job as a parent, and this probably doesn't affect any of our listeners, but your job as a parent is to keep an eye on your kids. So if you go to the pool, keep an eye on your kids. Make sure they're safe. The lifeguard's job is secondary to your job. Your job and your priority is to be aware and observant. And that carries into everything that we do. Be observant as you're driving. 90% of the road rage issues could be resolved if we were just a little more observant of the surroundings we have going on. So put away your phone. Stop texting. Start driving and focusing on the drive. I've messed up driving, and I admit it. We all do. But we need to be more observant of what's going on around us so that we can be a better solution in society. We can be a better tool to help out.
Yeah, and I think it comes down to when you go to a restaurant, I always make sure I can see the door, the entry in particular. And that's a kind of a tactical thing that I've decided I'm going to do, and I know, Scott, you have as well. But it also has to do with being aware of current events, of watching the news. We talk about the mainstream all the time versus the alternative media, and so you decide what you want to watch, but being aware, and so you can make those adjustments in your preparations, in everything you do to what's going on currently.
Well, I think more than that even is you've got to think of the daily challenges that are going to come up, and not be worried about them, but just be aware of them. When we're little kids, we start school. First thing they do is fire drills and tell you where all the exits are. Why are we not doing that as adults? So many times people are like, "Oh, where's the bathroom? Where do I do?" When you walk into a restaurant and you're still able to look around and see where everything is. And if you can see it, great. If you can't, then ask your waitress right away, "Hey, where's the closest exit? Where's the bathroom from here?" That way in case of an emergency. I'm not talking everyone's going to be walking into an active shooter situation. That's not what I'm talking about. There are things that happen in restaurants all the time. Someone could have a heart attack. You need to, call 911. Tell them how to get into the building, where this person is in relation to
where
the
the fire
door.
extinguisher is.
Yeah.
And sometimes they'll have a defib kit somewhere, or a first aid kit.
Exactly. These are all, there's a million things that could go wrong in anybody's day. And by being a little more observant, you're reducing the severity of those things that could go wrong.
And another thing that is also fits in this category for me is assessing risks. And what I mean with that is, again, not kind of the tactical aspect of it, but I spend a lot of time in the backcountry, and there are so many variables when you're out caving or hiking among the cliffs that you just can't control. So you have to assess the risk, whether, okay, do I do this? Is the risk too high? Is it too low? And that is where it really comes into survival. Kind of the difference between Bear Grylls and Survivor Man.
Yeah, good old Les Stroud.
Les Stroud, he basically assessed the risk, says, no, that risk is too high, I'm not going to take that risk. Whereas Bear Grylls says, sure, I'm going to rappel down this cliff on a paracord, because it's good TV. Really, that's all it comes down to. So essentially, that's what I mean by assessing risk.
Yeah, and it applies to everything. I mean, I look at the most practical example is you go out on a holiday weekend. What happens after midnight on holiday weekends? That's when you see all the DUIs going on. I always make sure that I'm home well before then. New Year's Eve, perfect example. Everyone wants to stay out past midnight, but then all the idiots who drink and drive are also out after midnight driving around and endangering themselves and you. So I've, personal practice, decided I'm not going to be driving after midnight on New Year's Eve. Yeah. I always make it a point to celebrate locally at home, or if I'm celebrating somewhere else, that I'm staying the night so I don't have to worry about it.
Yeah, we're leaving early, right?
To
minimize
Safety
your risk.
First. Minimize your risk in everything in life. I mean, we tell our kids all the time, hey, don't do that, it's not safe, or this could happen. But then we don't listen to that same instruction in our own lives, or we neglect it. And so that's a habit we all need to be cultivating, is to pay attention, be observant, risk assess what we're doing in our life, and if it makes sense to do it or not.
Now here's something I wanted to fit in real quick before we're at the end of the hour here, is a habit that I've really ingrained into myself is using my resources wisely. Water, food, whatever it is, not overwatering your lawn, not taking too long of a shower, not, those types of things is what I mean by using resources wisely. We've got a couple of callers here. Point. Hopefully we can squeeze at least one in here.
Let's get this guy in here. Hey, thanks for calling K-Talk. You're on the air.
Yeah, you know how it is wrong for Americans to hate foreign people and trash on them?
Okay.
Isn't it the same thing when they trash Americans? It doesn't mean the same racism?
Yeah.
Absolutely. It's switching topics, but yeah, I think you're right.
Yeah. Well, sorry for switching the topics, but this is exactly what our politicians in place are going for right now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Absolutely. Unfortunately, that is the case. Thank you so much for your call.
Yeah, people should think to place different politicians. But all right, dude.
All right.
Thank you.
Thanks for the call.
Now, we're running out of time here.
Here's our music.
Want to thank you guys for tuning in this week. We're unable to take any more callers because the show is over for the day. You've been listening to Prepper Talk Radio on K-Talk AM 630. Check out the new website, ktalkmedia.com. Follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and everywhere else you can follow us on, and tune in every week, Wednesdays, 9 a.m. here on K-Talk for Prepper Talk Radio.
See you next week.